All right, first demo of the breakfast unit. So I'm doing pancakes and scrambled eggs. So for pancakes, I want to mix up my pancake batter ahead of time so it has time to rest. I like to do that because by resting it, it'll hydrate some of those lumps. And so you don't have to over mix it. So if you over mix it, that you're gonna end up with not so fluffy pancakes, more dense pancakes. So you wanna sift your dry ingredients. So we're getting kind of starting a little bit of baking in this unit too. So you always wanna sift your dry ingredients so that you don't have any lumps. So I have a sifter here, excuse me, a sifter here over my bowl. And I'm just gonna sift my all-purpose flour into the bowl. I also have my baking powder. So my baking powder is gonna be my leavener. It's what's gonna help those rise. I have my griddle on. Baking powder gonna help it rise, and then salt for flavor. So sift it into the bowl. Remember, you don't wanna sift it up here. You worked hard to measure all these ingredients, so make sure you measure it into, or sift it into the bowl. I use kosher salt, which is a larger grain of salt, so sometimes it doesn't go through. I'm gonna look in there and make sure there's no big lumps, and I'm just gonna toss it in. Okay, so that's for that. And then I have milk and an egg. So 1 cup of milk and an egg. The recipe calls for vanilla, but I have no vanilla at school for some reason. But I do have some maple extract that I found, so I'm gonna use that. Which is kind of fun, right? So half teaspoon of vanilla extract or maple extract if you have it. Pancakes, maple, why not? Okay, so I have that mixed. So now I'm gonna add my wet ingredients to my dry ingredients. The thing you wanna think about there, you don't wanna over mix it. So I just said that. You don't wanna over mix it because your pancakes will go from fluffy to dense. So I'm just gonna mix it until it's incorporated, and then I'm gonna let it rest while I make my scrambled eggs. So I'm gonna add this in. Also, don't add your vanilla in and then let your eggs sit. The vanilla is alcohol and it'll just cook them. So I'm just gonna mix this until a batter forms, and then I'm gonna let it chill out for a bit. So it's okay if it has lumps. I'm not too worried about that because those will dissipate. I just wanna make sure everything's mixed together and it's hanging out, chilling out good together. So just like that, boom, boom. I actually might need to add a little flour to mine, but I'll check it out once it's sat for a minute. So I have my mise en place ready for that. I'm gonna use a griddle or a flat top so you guys can kind of see what's going on. This is a little harder, but you can use any sort of pan to do pancakes in. I like a non-stick pan to do pancakes in. It makes it so they don't stick. It makes it a little bit easier. If you're gonna use a non-stick pan, make sure you use something plastic, not metal, to turn your pancakes. Okay, so scrambled eggs. Scrambled eggs, the biggest thing with scrambled eggs is you want to scramble them. So I have a bowl with my eggs in it. So you always want to crack your eggs into something just in case you get a shell. I just got a shell, so I'm gonna pull that guy right out. Like we talked about in the pear deck, egg yolks have lecithin in them so that, all right, scrambled eggs. So scrambled eggs, I'm gonna do 2 eggs into a bowl. So I cracked 2 eggs into the bowl. You wanna add some sort of liquid. The liquid's gonna help emulsify it. There's emulsifying agents, remember, in the egg yolk, but the liquid's gonna help with that and bind it together. When I taught at OCI, when we had the egg unit, we went around and the only way to get checked off for your eggs was if you didn't have any streaks of white in them. So I'm gonna hold you guys to the same standard. So 2 eggs and then a couple tablespoons of milk will do it, or water. Water works fine. Water works great too. So you wanna use a whisk. If you don't have a whisk at home, you can use a fork. It's just gonna take a little bit more effort. So I'm gonna whisk those together. I'm also gonna add some salt. Remember, when you guys are adding salt, you're gonna pinch and not pour. So I'm gonna do 2 pinches of salt in here. You can also add other things to your scrambled eggs. I'm just looking for a basic scrambled egg. So I'm gonna look, and you wanna see those bubbles. You wanna see that there's no streaks of the white in there. Then I'm gonna get a non-stick pan. I have a little bit of butter melted, which is gonna help me with this. I just have it for all of these egg demonstrations. But, so I have a non-stick pan here. I'm gonna heat that on medium-high heat. I'm really weird and I don't like any color on my eggs. I can't eat eggs if they have any bit of caramelization on them. You guys might be a little bit different, but I'd like to see you try not to get any color on your scrambled eggs, just for funsies. So I'm gonna make sure there's nothing happening here. I have a little bit of water in my pan. So if you didn't have melted butter, just do a small dab, like not even a half a teaspoon of butter in the bottom of your pan. And then that will be good for scrambled eggs. You want to use some sort of rubber spatula. You want to use also a non-stick pan for this. A lot of households have just an egg pan that they use strictly for eggs. I know I have two that are strictly just for eggs. If there's any scrapes from using metal on the bottom of your pan, your eggs will settle down into there, and especially on like over easy, over medium eggs, sunny side up eggs, it's really hard to flip those over, and that's what you have to do to get them over. So I don't have any pats of butter, so I'm just gonna put enough of the butter on the bottom just to lightly coat it. I don't want it like drenched in butter by any means. I just want enough to coat the bottom of the pan. It's gonna be a little awkward here, but that's okay. Okay, so pan's hot enough. Another thing you wanna look for is once that butter's in there, you want it to kind of start sizzling a little bit, just a little bit, just so you know that it's hot in there. I'm using induction, so it takes a little bit longer, unfortunately. But so if you put your ear to it, it's sizzling a little bit. So I'm gonna add my eggs, my scrambled eggs into there. And remember, you guys, clean your dishes as you go, wash your hands, do all the things, so your parents keep letting you cook. I'm gonna put all these dishes over by the sink. Okay, so I like to let it sit just for a second in there, and then I'm gonna take my rubber spatula and I'm gonna work from the outside pushing in. So I'm pushing onto, so coming down the sides of the pan, pushing into the center. You're gonna do the same exact thing for the omelet. So you're just gonna scrape the sides and push them into the center. That's pulling the coagulated egg off the bottom of the pan so that the raw egg can go into its place and cook. So some people like a drier scrambled egg, some people like a softer, wet scrambled egg. It's personal preference. You guys are eating these, I don't care how you cook them. If you were cooking them for a customer, like most restaurants serve a more wet scrambled egg with a larger scramble, if that makes sense. So that's what I'm kind of going for right now. So I'm just scraping, remember rubber spatula or something soft, scraping the bottom of that pan so that I'm pulling the egg off. I'm noticing that it's about 80% cooked. So I'm actually gonna turn off my heat at this point and let the residual heat do the rest, only because I'm crazy and I don't like any color on my eggs. So there's still gonna be heat on the bottom of that, on your burner, right? So I'm just gonna move this around and cook that last little bit until I end up with a scrambled egg. I'm gonna put it on a plate so that it's a little bit easier for you guys to see it in the camera. And then while you are eating your eggs, you can get your pan soaking. So check it out. So no white streaks in there. And also larger chunks of scrambled eggs is what I like. If you mess with it too much, it's gonna be tiny little chunks. I like to get like a big chunk of scrambled eggs and shove it in my mouth. So there you go. Oh wait, I'm gonna do pancakes still. Okay, so pancakes. I'm heating up my griddle. You want it hot. It was on just a minute ago. These heat up super fast. These are super cheap, and they make like the pancake French toast game like way easier. So I am going to wait till that heats up just a little bit. I'm gonna check my pancake mixture. So what I like to do for pancakes, I have a little container over here. I like to put it into a container. So any sort of plastic container that's kind of bendable a little bit, and it's just easier to pour that way for me. There's restaurants in Portland where they put them in like squeeze bottles, and you can do stuff like draw stuff on, which is kind of the same idea. This might be a little bit loose, so you don't want it to run as freely as that, but my flour is underneath my camera, so I'm just gonna go with it. So that's that. And then I have my butter here. So if you're just using a regular like non-stick pan, like a big skillet, that's fine too. Again, just make sure you have something plastic to turn them with. And then you can melt butter in there. Like I said, I just happen to have butter here because I'm doing 20,000 demos today on different things that I needed melted butter for. So just enough butter to coat the pan. So the butter's gonna add flavor, and it's also gonna help it so it doesn't stick. So this is why I like this. So I can just take the pancake batter and just kind of do that. Just pour it into a nice circle. I don't love making them too big because it's harder to flip them over if they get too big, and I'm kind of a wimp. So this isn't too bad. I would make mine a little bit thicker, so see how fast it's flowing. Maybe just don't add as much milk to yours to thin it out. But what you're gonna look for now is the bubbles breaking on the surface of the pancakes. You probably have heard that before, and hopefully you can see that kind of happening here. So you're gonna get air bubbles that come to the surface when it's cooked at the bottom. I look for, right now I see tiny little bubbles, but I wanna see structure starting on those pancakes, and then the bubbles start to break at the top. This is taking just a minute. And you wanna do like medium-high heat if you're doing it on the stovetop. If you have one of these griddles, perfect. I just crank it on these. And be really careful if you're using these when you pull out this little guy to clean it. Like a ding dong, I've grabbed that before and it doesn't feel very good. So I can tell right now by the way that my pancakes look and that the bubbles aren't breaking towards the surface that there's not a lot going on, not a lot of color going on the underside. I like to have a little bit of color. Remember, caramelization is flavor, and that's the good stuff. So I'm waiting for that to happen before I flip mine. If you want to add chocolate chips to your pancakes, this is the time to do it. So you do it so pour the batter down, wait for some structure to form on the bottom. Otherwise your pancakes, or your chocolate chips will go to the bottom of the pan and burn. And burnt chocolate's not the greatest flavor. So I wait for a little bit of structure to set up on the underside to protect it, but where you can still see a glossy top, and then put some chocolate chips there. Same thing with blueberries or strawberries if you're gonna do it. Strawberries are harder because there's a lot of liquid in strawberries. Okay, so I'm starting to see larger bubbles coming to the surface. It's not exactly where I want. I would probably wait just a minute if I were at home, but I'm gonna flip it just to show you guys. So a little bit of color there. And again, you don't wanna mix this too much. Remember, I just mixed the pancake batter until it was just mixed together. If you mix it too much, you're gonna have dense pancakes. So those guys are good. So I'm just coming up underneath the pancake and flopping it, okay? So then you're just gonna wait for the underside to cook. The tricky part with this is that you can't really see what's going on in the middle. If they're too thick, sometimes it's undercooked even if you think it's done. So what I would say is just as much caramelization on the underside as is on that side that you flipped. Hopefully that makes sense to you. So then you'll just keep cruising until all your batter's done. So I don't have a lot of caramelization going on. This little guy is doing better, but he's my small guy. I'm gonna wait. Some people are going to smash them down and keep smashing them down. I don't do that because I don't like them super flat. I like some fluff to them still. So give them a minute and then take a picture with yourself, some sort of identifying theme that it is you, and then enjoy them. Okay.